So welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you're good, and welcome to yet another vlog, starting off in this outfit. I did say it was about 4. Hopefully, if I've done this correctly, you should be seeing this on Halloween. Hopefully. If so, happy Halloween. And for Halloween, what better way to celebrate than to consume some Junji Ito? Is there a more perfect thing for Halloween as a manga lover? No, there is not. So we've got 3 to read. We've got Deserter, which is like short story collection. I think it's his earliest works. We've got Tombs, which is another short story collection, I believe. And this is one of the newer ones, which I have not read. And then I just bought Black Paradox, which is 4 people intent on killing themselves meet through the suicide website Black Paradox. And then it will go from there. I'm sure it'll be super creepy. Junji Ito is like, when it comes to manga, and you say manga and horror, the first thing you think of is Junji Ito. What I also would like to do for this is possibly watch some of the anime, because there is a Junji Ito anime. So this is just a brief introduction to let you know that I'm about to consume all of this Junji Ito, and then I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you the things that freak me out the most. I'm going to show you some freaky shit, because it's Halloween, baby, and that's what we do. Hi friends, I'm here to give you thoughts. Junji Ito thoughts. So, first up, I read Black Paradox. So this is like a standalone self-contained story. So a lot of like what I have of Junji Ito is short story collections, but occasionally he does a bind up of stories which follow a traditional narrative linear pattern almost. Does that make sense? Things like Uzumaki and Tomi and Gyo, I think is how you say it, they tend to be kind of like, here's the start, here's the end, and we kind of work our way there, but they're kind of in a block. And Black Paradox is one of those. So in this, we're following these 4 people who have met on a site called Black Paradox, which is for people that want to unalive themselves. What I would say is, if you're interested in reading Junji Ito, if you have ever thought about unaliving yourself, or if that is something that triggers you or you struggle with, I would not pick this up. I wouldn't do it. There is a lot of discussion about unaliving yourself and that kind of thing, and I just wouldn't do it to yourself, you know? I think the easiest way for me to sum it up is just to read you the very beginning of this like blurb. So it says, 4 people intent on killing themselves meet through the suicide website Black Paradox. Maruso, a nurse who despairs about the future, Taburo, a man who is tortured by his doppelganger, Pitan, an engineer with his own robot clone, and Barachi, a woman who agonises about the birthmark on her face. They wander together in search of the perfect death, fatefully opening a door that leads them to a rather bizarre destiny. So that is your basic premise of it. Obviously, in true Junji Ito style, it goes off and gets weird. It gets real weird. And I loved it. I would give this a 5 stars. Obviously, with that caveat that I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. It's a little bit like Meg and A Little Life. Meg from 12 Books a Day. She loves that book, doesn't recommend it to people. She tells them she loves it, but she never actually recommends that you pick it up. And that's kind of like what I would say about Black Paradox. This is not one that I'm going to recommend to everyone and tell people you should read it, but I will tell you that I love it. Does that make sense? It was just twisty and weird and had a lot of discussions about like feelings of inadequacy or self-hatred or general anxiety, and just kind of like went from there. And it was, honestly, I can't describe it. I genuinely can't describe it without giving spoilers. Do I recommend it? As I say, no. But if it is not something that triggers you and you don't mind reading about that sort of thing and you want to try Junji Ito, this is a very good one. It's quite short, it's self-contained, brilliant. After that, I picked up Deserter. So this is a collection of short stories, and I'd only read one of them before, which was The Long Hair in the Attic. I'm pretty sure that is in another collection, which does sometimes happen. There were some really good stories in this. I think my favourites were Where the Sandman Lives was really good, because it was about a man's dream version trying to get out of him while he slept, and so he wouldn't sleep. That was really weird. The Long Hair in the Attic is really good. It's about this woman who grew her hair long for her boyfriend, and then he dumps her and she like gets eaten by rats, and then it's really strange. Which is like a general theme for Junji Ito. Unendurable Labyrinth was a wild one. It's about these 2 girls and they kind of get lost while trekking on a mountain, and they find like this cult, and yeah, it gets really weird. Did I reset it? It's weird. And then Deserter was also really interesting. So the title story, because it was set in like the 50s in Japan, and basically this guy had deserted the Japanese army in 1944 during the war and was living in his friend's like storehouse, and because of something that happens prior to the story, but you do find out during the story, so I'm not going to say, but they are making him believe that the war is still going on 8 years later. So bearing in mind, in 1944, it only had a year before the war ended. So for 7 years, he's thought a war is still going on that isn't. So he is hiding, thinking that he's going to be kind of like captured by military police and punished for deserting. So he is hiding in this storehouse, and the war is like long over. It was really well done, and it got really creepy, that one actually. The last panel of that one is something that is not creepy, but with the context of the story, it really gave me like that feeling where you just like your whole body just like reacts to it. It was just and it's not like it's gross or anything. It's literally, I'm not going to show you, but there's nothing gross about it. But because of the context of the story and what you found out, that last panel, I just looked at it again, it gives me the creeps. It really did. It's not my favourite short story collection. Shiver is still the one that I always kind of go to recommend. Oh, I forgot about that one actually. There was also one called Village of the Siren. That was so good, and it was basically like this demon had been locked away in a church and it was released, and then, you know, causing havoc with a siren, and it was crazy. I always really enjoy a Junji Ito short story collection. He has a way of kind of like taking simple things and making them really weird and creepy, which I love. Sometimes they seem to end really, really quickly, but I mean, that's kind of what you get for a short story, which leads me on to the adaptations from this one that I watched. So I watched from this one Where the Sandman Lives and The Long Hair in the Attic. They were the two that I watched from this one, and they're fine. Like, the anime versions are fine. They're fairly enjoyable, but you just don't get that creep factor. His art style is so unique and also quite classic, which I know sounds contradictory, but like, if you look at, if I just try and show you something that isn't like too creepy or spoilery, in case you're looking to start it, which you absolutely should. Here we go. So the people, this is quite like classic manga, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I've got these on hand because I just finished filming it. It's not like a newer style where the people are like this, you know, like the newer anime style, manga style, sorry. It is very kind of like, he's been doing it a long time, and you can tell, and that's not a bad thing, because he has cultivated his own style. He's managed to find a way to use that style to add to his creep factor. The guy can make anything feel or look organic, if that makes sense. Like, you can look at something and it looks like squishy. I don't think I'm making any sense. I know what I mean, I just don't know how to get my words out. But what I'm saying is that we sometimes see, or I feel like when I watch the anime, that creep factor hasn't necessarily translated. Which brings me on to the last one that I read for this, which was Tombs. Now this I would put just behind Shiver, under my favourite Junji Ito short story collections. It would be Shiver and then Tombs. That would be my recommendations for the short stories now at this point. I really, really enjoyed this. Really, really enjoyed this one. It had some really good stories in there, and I hadn't read any of them before. So the first one was Tombs, and that was one of my favourite, probably one of my favourite Junji Ito short stories ever. I thought it was really interesting. It's basically about this town where, you know, when someone dies, the tomb goes where they die. So if they die in the middle of the road, the tomb goes in the middle of the road. If they die in their house, the tomb goes in their house, which obviously causes some issues. And then when this brother and sister go to see the sister's friend, there is an incident and stuff goes down. It was a really great short story. It had a really weird premise. Instant win. The atmosphere that he built was so good. I watched that adaptation. The series that I was picking the adaptations from is called Maniac. It's on Netflix, and some of them are pretty good. Some of them are pretty good, right? And each episode is normally 2 short stories. Tombs got its own one, so it had the full like 20-24 minutes, and yet still it just didn't translate that creepiness. Like, it wasn't creepy. And I actually thought that the creepiest moment in this, which I can't tell you what it is without spoilers, right? But there's a certain design in this which is honestly quite horrific, and it just looked a bit shit in the anime. Like, it wasn't scary, it looked quite cheap, and I was just a bit like, oh, that's really disappointing, because that is probably one of my favourite, as I say, one of my favourite short stories that I've read from him. What else? The other ones that I liked in this were The Window Next Door. The Window Next Door was really short. One of the creepiest ones I've ever read. There is a character design in that where, just thinking, I can see it now. I don't even have to find it. I can see it, and it is horrendous. It is horrendous. I'm pretty sure I've seen it on a t-shirt, and I kind of want it. So I don't know what that says about me. Washed Ashore gave me the heebie-jeebies, but I don't think it would give everyone the heebie-jeebies. But it has to do with like a deep sea creature, and you know I don't fuck with the ocean, so that, oh, I didn't enjoy that one. The Strange Tale of the Tunnel is another one that I watched the adaptation of, and actually I had already seen that adaptation. I watched it with my cousin Wendy. That is probably one of the better adaptations actually from that series. I actually thought that was really well done. It translated the story pretty well. The thing with that short story is the creep factor is fairly low, and there's not so much visual scares, if that makes sense. It's just kind of like a general foreboding, so that did translate quite well. And I think that was all the adaptation ones that I watched. Bronze Statue was also really good. That was really quite creepy. It was about like vanity and stuff. Floaters was good, which it was just unfortunately named, because you think floaters, you think floaters. But it's about like these little hair ball things that are like floating through the air, and they are saying people's innermost thoughts out loud in their voice and kind of like revealing people's secrets. And then, you know, and then the bloody story of Shirosona was really cool, and that was like this remote village where they don't want any outside help, and this doctor goes there and everyone is like anemic and like just starts randomly bleeding, and yeah, really creepy. So I'm sure I watched more adaptations, but I think it's because they were like 2 in 1. So I also watched like one of the Oshikiri ones. The Oshikiri short stories are in the back of the Frankenstein bind up, which obviously I love, and he has a lot of stories, but they only did one, which is Intruder, which is great. I mean, I think it's the first one anyway, but I was like, I would quite like to watch all of Oshikiri's ones, because I find the Oshikiri stories really great. And then I did watch Soichi one, which is it Soichi, is that how you say it? That is my friend Emmy's favourite short stories that he does. I don't have that collection yet, but I have like read 1, maybe 2 in other bind ups, and he's creepy. He's a creepy ass kid. So I think I've done a terrible job, as per usual, of telling you what anything was about and wrapping it up. But basically what I've decided is that I might watch the Junji Ito stuff, the anime, but it's not super high on my list because I just feel like it works so much better in manga format. He is the master of horror, and it's down to his art style, and I just don't think anybody's quite been able to make that art style work in anime yet from what I've seen. Happy to be proven wrong. I will keep watching. There's another collection, but I'm just feeling like it's just not translating for me. But these, fantastic. Would definitely give all of them 5 stars. I don't think I've ever rated a Junji Ito under 5 stars. That's a lie. Dissolving Classroom. Not Dissolving Classroom. Yes, Dissolving Classroom. Yes, Dissolving Classroom. I think I only gave a 4. Everything else I'm pretty sure has been a 5. So what I would say is that Deserter is a very good short story collection. This is a great short story collection. I would still give this a 5. I would still give it a 5 because it still had so many really good stories, but just like as an overall, considering all the short story collections of his that I have, I would put it like middle. This is up the top near Shiver, and if you've ever asked me for a Junji Ito recommendation, you know that my go-tos are always Shiver for short stories and Uzumaki for a self-contained story. So this being right near Shiver says how good it was. And I would probably say that if it wasn't for the aspect that I've already talked about, I would be recommending this alongside Uzumaki, but I'm not going to be doing that. But I will say that it's probably just under Uzumaki for me. I'll be honest, I don't know if anything will ever topple Uzumaki because that is amazing. But this is much shorter and was very, very interesting and would read again. This was kind of self-indulgent. I just really wanted to read some Junji Ito in October. So I did, and I watched them, and then I'm just gonna share it with you on Halloween, because what's more Halloweeny than Junji Ito, the master of horror manga. I now do believe that I have read all of the Junji Ito that I have. There is still more to get. I really want to get No Longer Human. That is so high on my list, but every time I try and buy it in a store, it is ripped. It's white with a dust jacket on, and it is always damaged in some way, and I'm too scared to order it online because I know it's going to come absolutely battered. I've already got 2 things I've got to send back because they've arrived battered, so I don't want the disappointment. I also need the Soichi collection. I can't say it. I can hear it in my head, as is always the case. Just cannot get my mouth to form the words. And I know that there's a couple of other collections that I need to get, so I will be getting them at some point. Although my Junji Ito shelf is full because it's also on there with like Tokyo Ghoul, I think. So, I mean, at this point, we're gonna have to do another unhaul because the manga is taking over. I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying the space is lacking, and yet the buying is still happening. So I hope you enjoyed this creepy little vlog for Halloween. I hope you're having a great Halloween. If you have any thoughts on the Junji Ito that I've read, let me know in the comments below. If you have a favourite Junji Ito, let me know. Or if you would like to try some Junji Ito, let me know. If you just want me to know you're here, that purple heart is always appreciated. And in the spirit of Junji Ito, leave me something creepy. Like, genuinely anything creepy. And spirit of Junji Ito and Halloween, so like ghosts or a skull or a zombie, whatever you want. Go wild. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed and you'd like to see more bookish content from me, remember to hit that button, leave a like if you want to, and I will see you in the next one.